You've surely heard the story before. It's recounted in each of the four Gospels. While not included in John's Gospel, Jesus makes the necessary arrangements in order to procure a donkey. And as preparations for the Passover celebration begin, Jesus enters into Jerusalem one last time. And he does so, as the Gospels tell us, riding on a donkey. The crowd that had come for the Passover festival came out to greet him as he entered. He was met with great fanfare and acclaim. Palm branches were waved and shouts of Hosanna were shouted. What a scene as they welcomed the King of Israel. While there are many aspects of this account that we could speak about and focus on, I'd like to limit our attention today to the animal that Jesus rode into Jerusalem on, the donkey itself. Given the importance of the donkey and understanding who Jesus is and what he's come to do, we want to understand what significance the donkey would have had. Why did Jesus specifically decide to ride into Jerusalem on a donkey? And how might that continue to be significant for you and for me today? Well, let's talk about it. When Jesus rides into Jerusalem on the back of a donkey, the message is loud and clear, even though he doesn't even say a word. One biblical scholar highlights this point wonderfully when he states that this event would have been an object lesson designed to imprint the event upon the minds of the viewers in the style of some of the acted messages of the prophets. The message he sends and we receive is that he is the King and Messiah, the fulfillment of God's prophetic word. How so? Well, let's begin with the imagery that speaks to Jesus being king. This may be confusing. How does a donkey speak to kingship? Think of it this way. Historically, riding on a donkey was often associated with kingship. One biblical story helps us to see this reality. In 1 Kings chapter 1, verses 38 to 40, when David had affirmed that Solomon would be king after him, Solomon rides to the spring of Gihon to be anointed as the next king, and he's riding on a mule. So his claim to kingship was closely related to his riding on the Mountain of David, a mule in this instance, which is a half donkey. We also see that the same point is made, but in reverse. In 2 Samuel 18, verse 9, we're told Absalom was riding on his mule, and the mule went under the thick branches of a great oak, and his head caught fast in the oak, and he was suspended between heaven and earth, while the mule that was under him went on. So the fact that he's taken off his mule means that he is no longer the rightful king. In this way, we see the close connection between being king and riding on a mule or donkey. Lastly, commenting on this event in the context of Matthew's gospel, two noted biblical scholars also echoed the theme of kingship here. Unlike the normal pilgrim, Jesus does not approach the city on foot. Instead, he rides. This reflects his extraordinary status. The king sits. We can see then that Jesus riding into Jerusalem on Palm Sunday naturally carried overtones of his identity as king. The second part of the significance of Jesus riding on a donkey is closely connected. What kind of king would Jesus be? Now, Zechariah chapter 9 verse 9 is where the ideas of kingship and Messiah come together. This is the scriptural text that John loosely quotes in John chapter 12 verse 15, where he says, "Fear not, daughter of Zion, behold, your king is coming, sitting on a donkey's colt." But notice what John adds and leaves out. John leaves out the part of Zechariah 9:9 that says this king and Messiah will be righteous and having salvation. He adds, "Fear not, daughter of Zion," which is frequently found in Isaiah. What's it all mean? John wants us to see that Jesus is the long-awaited Messianic king, the one God promised to send to bring peace, deliverance, and salvation. But this promise extends beyond not only Zechariah 9 verse 9, that is to say, Jesus riding into Jerusalem encompasses all of God's promises that he would come and save his people. Fear not. That sounds like Isaiah chapter 35 verse 4, where God promises to come and save his people. And because of that, they should not fear. Fear not. That sounds like Isaiah chapter 44 verse 2, where God promises to renew and bring life to his people, who are pictured as a parched and withering land. Jesus is the one who comes to make it all possible. So what kind of king is he? He's indeed humble and righteous and brings salvation, just as Zechariah informs us. And he came to make his way to his throne, which would be the cross. And in his death there is power that overcomes sin and death and the devil. And he rises and he sends his spirit so that these promises of life and salvation and victory would be yours now and forevermore. To summarize then, we learn that Jesus was and continues to be a king, but one who would come to bring peace, the blessings of God's kingdom, not through might or force, but through humble service, suffering, and death. That's our Thursday Theological Thought. So glad you joined me today. I invite you to like and subscribe, and to also leave a comment about something that stands out to you from this episode, whether startling, comforting, or otherwise. Christ's peace be with you.